Hello, this is a quick video exploring the marking of question 3. Now, the question's very straightforward. How does the writer use language to describe his son? So, question 3 will ask you to look at one of the texts and it will ask you to talk about how language is used and explain how the writer uses language. So, they will give you a specific section from the text and that's where you need to be focusing your ideas on. So here's the mark scheme, and we're going to work from the bottom and then work our way up so you can see how the skills build up and what you've got to do at the different levels. Now, level 1 is fairly straightforward. Like most things in English, this is where you've got a very simple comment. You're kind of on the right track, but you're not really doing anything with it. So, for example, this is the kind of thing where people fall down on this paper because they may use techniques and they may spot it and they may go, right, I've spotted a simile, I've spotted an interesting verb. But what they do is they don't do anything with that explanation. So they say the writer uses this verb to show us this. And there's no development. And so what you can see with this question in particular is that you can see that really offers a simple comment. And that might say something like, repeating what the quote actually shows us. So there's nothing really there. But you can see that still at level 1, you need to be using subject terminology. Okay, and you might get it right or wrong, but actually you're using that. So really it's just simple and not saying much. When we move up to level 2, you're starting to show some level of understanding. Now, the way that bullet points work is the top one is usually the one that the examiner is looking at first, and then they look at the others. But the top one is usually the most important one that they're looking. So you can see that the difference is that level 1 is a simple comment about why the writer uses a particular word or technique. This is where you're starting to explain it. So you're attempting to comment on it. So you might be saying something about why the writer uses a simile and you're explaining it, but your explanation might not be really effective. It might be a bit wishy-washy. And so there's a lack of kind of development in there. So that shows that you're kind of on the right track, but you're not really quite there. Okay, and you can see that really subject terminology, again, we're looking for subject terminology, even level 2. And so you can see that actually your terminology has to be there from the beginning. And if you're not doing that, then that is a problem. So you can see how important it is to get your terminology in there. So to get up to about 6 marks, you're kind of spotting the right things, but your explanation isn't really there. And you can see that you'd be using quotes and terminology, but it's your explanation. Now, if we look at level 3, okay, so level 3, we're going above half marks. And so you can see that here, what the difference is to get level 3 is you're looking for clear and relevant explanation. And so you're explaining why the writer is used this particular word or technique, and that's what you're going to do. And you can see it explains clearly the effects of the writer's choice. Now, one thing I will draw attention to here is when you look at that word effects, you kind of think, well, that means how does it affect the reader? Well, this question in particular, effect can actually mean the meaning. So you can talk about what does it add to the description or the writing, this meaning here. So it's not just going, ooh, this scares the reader or this is shocking. It can be about, ooh, this helps us to understand what's going on, or this helps us to understand the size of something. So really, for level 3 and to get 7 and 9 marks, what you need to be doing is you need to be explaining what the writer is doing and why they're doing it. And again, you've got quotes and you've got to use subject terminology. So it all hangs on your explanation. Why did the writer use this particular word or technique? And so that's what you've got to do. And you've got to make sure that you've got that explanation. So what we notice students that don't get to level 3, what they tend to do is they tend to list techniques and they're a bit waffling about why the writer used those words. So you've got to be very, very clear. You've got to be, the writer uses this word to make us understand this. The writer does this to do this. Okay, so that's where you're going with this. So if we look at level 4, which is your top band in the marking, so this is full marks, 10 to full marks. So you can see what actually happens at this level is that, yes, it's that detailed. So they're going to go in a bit more detail. So we're moving from clear to detailed. So they're going to expand on a point and they're going to take it further. But also, there's this word perceptive. And this word perceptive means that actually it's something quite subtle that nobody else will have picked up on. So, for example, what that might be, and we've seen it in previous exams, is it might be a reference to Greek myths. And so in the explanation, what the person has done is explaining has showed this link that, oh, this bit in the text, it links into Greek myths. And so that's a really subtle thing, and we call that perceptive. Now, not every text is going to be able to link into myths and that, but it just shows that kind of understanding, that level of understanding. And so actually, when we look at the bullet points, you can see that actually it includes that. So for example, here we've got the analyzes the effects of the writer's choices of language. Well, what that actually means is, you're actually exploring why the writer chose that word and what kind of effect it created, but also why did the writer want to feel the reader to feel that particular emotion. So you're going in more detail. And you might also, if you're analysing the effect, you might talk about the options that a writer might have. So the writer might have chosen this word, but they went with this word because they wanted this particular effect. So you're really, really zooming in. And that's the thing that you're going to be doing, zooming in quite a bit detail in talking about things. And if we look at level 4 a bit more, so you can see we've got this word judicious textual detail. So that might mean you're using a number of different quotes. And it's saying makes sophisticated and accurate use of subject terminology. So sophisticated, it might mean something that most people wouldn't spot on. But your sophisticated terminology can be the fact that you're talking about something being an adverb or an adjective. It's actually what you're looking for there is the precision, that you're very, very precise with the terms that you're referring to. So key things to think about with this paper, and particularly with this question 3. So, explain why a writer uses a language device is key. Okay, that is really, really, really key. All right, you've got to explain. It's not the spotting, it's the why. Why did the writer use this word? Why did the writer use this image? Why did the writer use this technique? Develop explanations. Okay, so to move up the bands in the marking, you need to have a very, very good explanation. Say a lot about little. It's not about spotting every single technique you can find, and it isn't a tick list in that way. Effect includes meaning as well as impact on the reader. So what that means is that you're not just going, ooh, this sounds scary to the reader. You're actually saying, well, actually this word there, the writer wants to make us understand how small this particular boat was in comparison to the massive wave, and to kind of show us the size of these two different things. That's about meaning, not necessarily about effect. So actually, it's a bit like what you do in literature. It's explaining a bit more about what the writer is doing. Think about what it makes us understand. What does the writer want us to know? And terminology is important, but the task isn't about spotting all the techniques in the text.